for American decision makers to figure out how to bring this war to an end.
What can draining four wrecks, thousands of miles apart, reveal about the decisive final months of World War II?
After the discovery of the impossible notebook, the submersibles continued their exploration deeper into the Bismarck's command center.
Personal items, a book with the pages still clearly readable.
As Jake floated past corroded navigation tools and fractured steel bulkheads, it reached a section that had previously gone unnoticed. A small steel locker bolted just inches from where Admiral Gunther Lütjens would have sat during the final battle. Most lockers in the ship had long since blown open or rusted away, but this one was different. It was sealed shut, visibly warped by pressure but strangely intact, its locking mechanism fused by heat or friction during the plunge. When ROV Scout examined the area using its manipulators, the sonar registered something unexpected: faint metallic resonance. The locker wasn't empty. The excitement in the control room of the research vessel above was palpable. Over the live feed, technicians could see that the locker had resisted all direct damage. Inside, they detected multiple solid objects, but the pressure and fragility of the surrounding compartment made it too risky to physically open. Instead, they used a fiber optic bore scope passed through a seam in the locker's corner. What it revealed was stunning. Several folded documents in wax-lined pouches, a rusted ceremonial dagger with SS engravings, strange given Lütjens was publicly anti-Nazi, and what appeared to be a metal case roughly the size of a small book, bearing no markings but showing signs of intense heat damage. Why would Admiral Lütjens, who famously defied Hitler's orders by refusing to turn back, keep such a collection right beside his command chair? Historians were left speechless. One working theory is that this locker was Lütjens's private cache, contingency documents, coded mission details, or even evidence of wartime operations that diverged from official Nazi command. Some even speculated that the unmarked metal case could have contained top-secret communiques from Berlin, or Enigma-related components that were meant to be destroyed before capture. But here's where things take an eerie turn. One of the pouches appeared to contain a sealed envelope with a red wax insignia that matched neither German Navy nor SS design. Experts claimed it resembled something more arcane, some say occult. This has sparked an entire subculture of theories suggesting that high-ranking Nazis aboard the Bismarck may have been transporting relics or knowledge linked to esoteric orders, part of the rumored Thule cargo, a conspiracy that ties Nazi Germany to ancient artifacts and forbidden science. While no concrete proof supports these wild claims, the presence of a sealed, non-military insignia on a ship already shrouded in mystery has fueled whispers that whatever was inside that locker might rewrite what we thought we knew about the Bismarck's final mission. The notebook that should have turned to sludge. When the robotic submersible Jake first slipped through the shattered porthole into the heart of the Bismarck, expectations were low. After all, the battleship had plunged nearly 16,000 feet to the Atlantic seafloor in 1941. Breaking apart in places and sliding across a muddy underwater slope. For nearly 5 decades, the pressure, over 7,000 pounds per square inch, should have crushed and corroded anything fragile. Paper should have dissolved. Leather should have rotted. But instead, wedged behind the armored compass binnacle in the control room, Jake's high-definition camera captured something utterly unbelievable. A leather-bound notebook, waterlogged but fully intact. It wasn't just the notebook's survival that baffled everyone, it was where and how it was found. The control room was one of the most armored parts of the Bismarck, protected by 14 inches of reinforced Krupp cemented steel. That part of the ship had remained largely sealed from the outside environment. Even more strangely, oil from the ship's hydraulic systems had coated many surfaces inside the command center, creating what experts called a deep-sea embalming effect. The low oxygen, frigid temperatures, and oil layer had acted like a natural preservative, slowing down the decay of organic material. This odd preservation scenario allowed the notebook, something that should have disintegrated within weeks, to remain legible. The most disturbing detail? The final page was open. Not closed, not blank, open. And the ink, though partially bled by decades underwater, was still there. A German naval officer, likely stationed during the Bismarck's last moments, had written a few lines in what divers later called hurried, uneven script. The final words were chilling. Demolition sequence set. Crew released. Shadows in the water. They are not ours. The last sentence sent shivers down every historian's spine. Who or what did they see? Speculation exploded. Some believed the officer was hallucinating under extreme pressure. Others pointed out that German U-boats like U-556 were operating in the area, and perhaps the shadows referred to those unseen allies. But even that didn't explain the phrasing. Not ours. There were no known enemy subs at visual range. No Allied ships were close enough in those final minutes to be mistaken for anything else. This led to even wilder theories. Unidentified submerged objects, or USOs, had been reported in other parts of the Atlantic during the war. Blips on sonar that moved too fast, made no sound, and vanished without trace. Could something like that have circled the Bismarck in its dying moments? The frozen voice recorder. Nobody was supposed to hear. As the ROV Scout continued its haunting journey through the Bismarck's control room, it drifted past collapsed ceiling beams and burst control panels, until its camera froze on a peculiar cylindrical object lying half-buried beneath a steel beam. It looked like part of a voice pipe or perhaps a periscope eyepiece, until one of the sonar operators watching from the research vessel above realized what it actually was: a magnetic wire voice recorder. Not a reel-to-reel tape, not a phonograph. A steel wire recorder, a rare prototype used briefly in the late 1930s by German naval officers to log classified audio messages without needing paper or electricity. And it was miraculously intact. The German Navy had only issued a handful of these wire recorders called Draftenaufzeichner for use in top-level operations, and their existence was long considered speculative by historians. To find one in the control room, especially so close to Admiral Lütjen's station, was as unlikely as finding a sealed radio transmission from the Titanic. The ROV team was stunned. Even more shocking, the device showed signs of compression but no structural breach. It had been cocooned in hydraulic oil and silt, potentially preserving the ultra-fine steel wire spool inside. The mission crew initiated a full three-dimensional scan and ultimately recovered the object using a pressurized retrieval unit. When it was flown to a lab in Germany under extreme temperature and pressure controls, the real surprise came. Fragments of voice patterns still lingered on sections of the wire. Though incomplete, audio engineers were able to isolate several seconds of muffled, staticky sound. Among the decipherable words, spoken in clipped German by what sounded like a fatigued officer, were the phrases, "They've circled again," followed by, "They are beneath us now," and finally, the most controversial clip, "This is not a submarine." No Allied subs were within visual or sonar range of the Bismarck in its final hours, and the German U-boat meant to assist it, U-556, had already reported being out of torpedoes and unable to help. So what was beneath them? Naval historians were divided. Some suggested the recording captured a sonar ghost or unknown natural anomaly. Others weren't so sure. Online forums and some defense researchers have gone as far as comparing the recording's description to modern encounters with USOs, unidentified submerged objects documented decades later by NATO navies. Could the Bismarck's final minutes have included contact with something never officially acknowledged? If so, why did Admiral Lütjens or his crew attempt to log it on one of the rarest recording devices of the era? And why did the voice fade out so abruptly? Just seconds after uttering that last haunting sentence? No one knows. The burn marks that shouldn't be there. As researchers mapped the inner compartments of the Bismarck's control room using multispectral scanners and ultraviolet fluorescence imaging, they noticed something that had never been mentioned in any previous expedition, nor recorded in survivor accounts. On the inner walls of the armored plotting room, just adjacent to the command chair, were streaks of thermal scarring, burn marks etched in strange, sweeping arcs that made no conventional sense. Unlike typical fire damage, these marks didn't originate from explosion points or follow the path of fuel fires. Instead, they curled upward and across in what one materials scientist described as consistent with arcing plasma or magnetic discharge, like something had surged across the room, but not from any known source of ignition. This wasn't a normal shipboard fire. The control room deep within the ship had been one of the most protected areas from external shell hits. No torpedo had breached this zone. Yet here were residual signs of intense heat that had left parts of the steel bulkhead warped and discolored in a pattern almost like vines or circuitry. But whatever it was, it reached the surface and left behind one of the most unsettling mysteries of the entire Bismarck legend. Drop your theory in the comments, hit subscribe, and click the card on screen.